inspired by Dan. He wanted us to be more involved. And maybe you could speak to that, Dan.
Okay. Fran asked me to put together some information. This is a motivational type of thing. The first time we're going to introduce this speaker from Harvard, and then he's written a book. So going to be a couple minutes, despite the fact that he's from Harvard. He's pretty good, I think. And then the second part will be what he has to say.
It's the economy, stupid, the Democratic strategist James Carville famously said. Well, to understand the state of our politics today and Donald Trump's second term, our guest tonight might describe it this way. It's the discontent, stupid. We welcome back Michael Sandel. He is a professor of political philosophy at Harvard, author of a new edition of Democracy's Discontent, and co-author of the most recent Equality, What It Means and Why It Matters. And he joins us now from Brookline, Massachusetts, just west of Boston, the hub of the universe. Professor Sandel, always great to have you on our program. How are you doing tonight?
That's just to tell you who he is, okay? The whole thing was about an hour, but this is the part that I thought was relevant to what we're talking about today.
Your life, and I'd love you to finish the story about while you're on vacation in Florida, and you get onto an elevator, and you get into a very short conversation with a woman from Iowa, which is good old middle America, red state, Donald Trump territory. Pick up the story from there, if you would.
She asked me, "Where are you from?" I said Boston. And she said, well, I'm from Iowa, and you know, we can read in Iowa.
Yes, I can.
I didn't know where that came from. I hadn't said I'm from Harvard. I hadn't said professor. All I said was Boston. And then as she got out of the elevator, over her shoulder, she said, "We don't much like people on the coasts." And this takes us back, Steve, to the conversation we were having about the politics of identity. And this was not about woke identity. This was about the sense that many people have, many working people, many people who live in rural areas or in the middle of the country, that coastal elites, credentialed elites, well-educated elites look down on them. And this is what I've called the tyranny of merit, the way in which the sense among many of the winners of globalization have not been content only with the winnings, but also want to claim that their winnings are their due, that their success is their own doing, the measure of their merit. And so it's interesting that she said, we can read in Iowa, which shows that the resentment against elites is not against elites who are in business or wealthy, as Trump is wealthy. It's resentment against credentialed elites, against meritocratic elites, who many people feel look down on them. And so one way of summing it up is that the market-driven version of hyperglobalization deepened the divide between rich and poor. But the meritocratic hubris of the successful during that same period is what created the divide between winners and losers. That's the divide that's toxic to our politics, that polarizes us. And that recognition, I think, should be the starting point for a bold project of democratic renewal that I hope will lead to a new definition, a more energized definition of what progressive politics can be.
That story is so fabulous because, of course, she would not know that you feel the exact same way about this issue as she does. And do you wish that you had an extra moment with her to say, hey, look, lady, I feel your pain and fate. In fact, I've written books about this. I'm with you. You didn't get a chance to say that, I guess.
Well, I didn't think quickly enough, but if I had, Steve, I would have said, I don't doubt that you can read in Iowa. And I'd like to give you something to read, my book, The Tyranny of Marriage. I see where you're coming from.
Exactly right. Well, okay, let's finish up on this then. Clearly, there is a sense in red state America, particularly, that coastal elites are looking down their noses at people, and they feel that they have been the big losers since globalization of the last 30 years. I'd like your prescription on how we can even begin to kind of restore a relationship where red state and blue state can talk to each other again, where people who feel looked down upon can reclaim their dignity, and Americans can, stop these culture, if not stop, at least reduce the culture wars. How do we do that?
Well, I think we need to begin by shifting the political rhetoric, but also the political project away from saying the solution to inequality and wage stagnation is for you to improve yourself if you're struggling by going and getting a college degree. About 2/3 of Americans do not have four-year degrees, so it's folly to create an economy that makes a necessary condition of dignified work and a decent life a four-year degree that most people don't have. So I would shift the terms of political argument toward what does it mean to honor and renew the dignity of work, to make life better, and to honor and recognize everyone who contributes to the common good through the work they do, the families they raise, the communities they serve, whether or not they have prestigious credentials. That would be one starting point. I think we also have to remake civil society. One of the most corrosive effects of the deepening inequalities has been that we increasingly live separate lives, a kind of class segregation almost that tracks education to some degree. Democracy does not require perfect equality, but what it does require is that people from different walks of life, different class backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, encounter one another in the ordinary course of the day. Because this is how we learn to negotiate and to abide our differences. And this is how we come to care for the common good. And so we need to rebuild those class mixing institutions, the public places and common spaces that gather us together, even inadvertently, well, to speak of our shared love of baseball, in a stadium, in a sports stadium, or in a library, or in public transit, or in a public park where our kids go to play, rather than opting out, seceding from public places by going to the private health club. So rebuilding the civic infrastructure for a shared democratic mode of life, Steve, I think is an on-the-ground concrete step that could begin to heal the divide and enable us, from time to time at least, to talk to one another.
That is so wise, and had you not said it, I was going to say that if you look at any home movies from Fenway Park from 50 years ago, the rich and the poor were sitting together in the stands, and nowadays, the rich are up in their private boxes, and the lower income people aren't going to the games anymore at all, because even to sit in the outfield is $75, which is certainly well beyond the ability of most. Yeah, you're so right. We got to figure that out. Michael Sandel, we always appreciate the fact that you come on this program and share your wisdom with us. Thank you for taking our calls, and until next time, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it.
So this really, I think, is actually what you were talking about with the Girl Scouts. I love the fact that they decided they wanted to go on a trip. And you got with them and made that trip happen. And you didn't tell them how to do it and that what they have to do or anything else, but you guided and you were with them. And that's what Third Space is all about. I know riding the CTA is maybe not the most delightful experience most of us have every day, but I think that's an important part of creating this community where we respect and listen to to one another and work with each other. So that's why I put it that way. So AARP has a whole bunch of community grants. And Fran has
This handout you have, that's this. AARP is trying to get people involved in their community, doing a whole variety of things that they're interested in seeing done. As you can see on the back of that, the different things that they would fund a group to work toward. And I don't see why we couldn't tap into that if someone had some project that they thought was important enough to get a group of us together to work toward. And if we needed money, we don't always need money, but if we needed money to work toward that, maybe AARP could help us.